So remember how 2023 was like one of the worst, if not the worst years when it comes to layoffs that we've seen in the games industry? Turns out that was just a warm-up because it looks like 2024 is going to be much worse on that front. And among the companies that recently decided to engage with mass layoffs is Microsoft, who recently laid off 1,900 employees from Activision Blizzard and Xbox, so specifically from their gaming division. This was reported by news outlet The Verge, who obtained an internal memo from Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer, which read that the leadership of Microsoft Gaming and Activision Blizzard is committed to aligning on a strategy and an execution plan with a sustainable cost structure that will support the whole of our growing business. As part of this process, we have made a painful decision to reduce the size of our gaming workforce by approximately 1,900 roles out of the 22,000 people on our team. And beyond that, there's been some shakeup on the leadership front, with Blizzard president Mike Ybarra deciding to leave the company. And then somebody else who decided to leave was Alan Adam, Blizzard's chief design officer. I'm curious as to whether this was completely voluntary on the part of these two individuals or if they were in some way forced out. But either way, a lot of people were laid off. And if we look at the state of video game layoffs in 2024, you'll see that between Activision Blizzard's most recent layoffs, combined with other mass layoffs from the likes of Riot Games, which recently laid off around 530 people, and then earlier this year, you may recall that Twitch laid off around 500 people, and Unity laid off around 1,800 people, just to name a few, the combined total of 2024 layoffs is currently sitting at 5,600 employees. And let me remind you that January isn't even over. We're still in the first month of 2024, and already we are over halfway through 2023's total layoffs of 10,500 employees. In less than 1 month of 2024, we're already over halfway through the total layoffs of 2023. It's going to be a massacre this year, ladies and gentlemen. And with these layoffs happening without warning, a lot of employees don't know if they're the ones who are going to lose their jobs. Communication with employees is so poor on this front that some are reaching out to journalists like Jason Schreier to ask if Jason has any insider information to check if they are among those who have been impacted. And this comes from people who were optimistic that Phil Spencer, Microsoft, took over Activision Blizzard, hoping that they would create a more nurturing environment, only to discover that that only signaled the end of their tenure at Activision Blizzard, the uprooting of their lives, and them having to seek new employment. And what makes all of this especially messed up is the fact that as the layoffs happened, it was reported that Microsoft has now become a $3 trillion company. Microsoft is literally at the peak of its valuation, and it's during this time that they decide to discard 1,900 human lives from employment. Now, one aspect of this round of layoffs that might be particularly disconcerting for gamers, especially those who enjoy physical media, is the fact that Microsoft, as part of this round of layoffs, shut down departments dedicated to bringing Xbox games to physical retail, which, if you've seen the digital-only Xbox console leaks, well, you can get an idea of where Microsoft is going here. Among the 1,900 who were laid off was basically everyone who was related to any department concerning physical media for Xbox games. And for those who don't know what Jess is referring to when he's talking about the leaks surrounding an all-digital Xbox, recall that as part of Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, they had to engage in legal battle against the FTC because the organization was concerned that Microsoft might be engaging in anti-competitive practices through this acquisition. And during these proceedings, details about Microsoft's future plans were leaked, among them involving refreshes for Xbox Series S and X. And notice that in the spec sheet of these refreshes, it lists content delivery as all digital. It seems pretty clear-cut what's going on here. It looks like Microsoft is making preparations to realize those future plans, starting with laying off everyone who is in departments related to Xbox physical media. Now, Jess highlights here that just because Microsoft is reducing retail teams doesn't confirm that the company's quitting physical retail for Xbox games yet. They can outsource and might be consolidating here, but the operative word here is yet. Sure, right now physical games do exist, but even he seems to admit that in the long term, an all-digital future is where we might be headed, at least as far as Xbox is concerned, and maybe other companies will follow suit as well. He seems to think that it does seem to be the industry trajectory. The writing is on the wall. And if one company succeeds with an endeavor like this, guess what? all companies will follow suit, because for corporations, an all-digital world is ideal because it's cheaper to distribute their products, and also it just grants them more control over how people engage with those products. And it's obviously a kind of future that nobody's looking forward to, because we're looking at a situation where, because things are all digital and everything is controlled by corporations, at any point they can decide to remove content from your library because you don't have the physical thing in your house that you can have forever. And we've seen glimpses of the dangers of that. I made a video not that long ago discussing how Sony proved the dangers of games going fully digital as PlayStation deletes players' purchased shows. Recall that there was a situation towards the end of 2023 where, due to content licensing arrangements with content providers, you'll no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Discovery content, and the content will be removed from your video library. Now, this has been walked back since, but that doesn't matter because the danger was there. People got a glimpse of the fact that companies can, at any point in time, choose to decide to strip content from your library, stuff that you spent money on, and you don't own any of that. Whereas with physical media, that have to break into your house to be able to take that away from you, which obviously you can't do because that's illegal as hell. In an all-digital future, you're dependent on companies having all of their ducks in a row in ensuring that licensing arrangements are well realized, ensuring that their services continue and don't close down, and ensuring that corporations and companies have your best interests in mind, which they don't. And even if they do, unintended things like licensing arrangements going awry can happen, where companies will have no choice but to pull content from your digital library, and you'll have no agency over that. And it's just too many unknown factors and too many risks involved in having an all-digital future where no aspect of your digital content and your digital library is fully secure. Whereas your vinyls, Blu-rays, game discs, and cartridges, all of that stuff, as long as you take care of them, you will have them forever. And if something happens to them, that's on you, the customer. But with digital content, so much of how that can go awry is on the corporations who we have seen be incompetent, or we have seen be untrustworthy. And so to see Microsoft go in this direction, shutting down departments involving Xbox games going to physical retail, and to see that the leaks surrounding an all-digital future for Xbox with console refresh leaks highlighting that, seemingly affirming our worst fears when it comes to an all-digital future where physical media gets slowly phased out, that's just incredibly discouraging to see for me, and it makes me want to engage less with the Xbox platform as a whole. Hopefully the likes of Sony and Nintendo, among others, won't follow through, but if corporate track record is anything to go by, I get the sense that the games industry as a whole is headed in this direction. I think we are slowly starting to see the death of physical media, which I hope I'm just being overly pessimistic about. I hope that's not truly the case, but the signs and indications, I mean, they are there. And it should also be mentioned that major retailers like Best Buy recently start to phase out physical media for movies. They've stopped selling Blu-rays or slowly removing Blu-rays from store shelves. So even brick and mortar retailers seem to be leaning in that direction, and it just does not make me optimistic at all that physical media can continue to live on. And look, I get that the majority of game sales is comprised of digital sales and not physical. So for example, Daniel Ahmad here pointing out that there are certain AAA games with 80% plus digital shares on Xbox these days. So it's not too surprising, indicative of how next gen will be for sure. But that's still 20% of gamers, which is hundreds of thousands, millions of people who buy their games physical. So this idea of phasing them out completely, creating all digital consoles with no options for physical media, I mean, that's just trying to kill off physical entirely and disregarding those 20% who do still buy physical because they do value just actually having something they can hold that represents the product that they bought. It goes without saying that the gaming community is none too happy about this. A lot of people aren't terribly surprised, but all this still kind of sucks. And I hope that Microsoft and Phil Spencer address this in some way. I hope they show some semblance of caring about physical media and not phasing them out completely. But the fact that we haven't really seen much of a statement yet, and the fact that there's so much silence surrounding this matter from Microsoft and Xbox just tells me that they're kind of committed to an all-digital future. They're committed to, in the long term, phasing out physical media altogether. And if that's the future of gaming, man, like, we'll manage, we'll still be able to play our games, but, fast forward 20, 30 years, and once we start seeing what happened to, the 3DS and Wii U shop, the PSP shop, and the Xbox 360 shop, and all of the digital content that disappeared forever because all digital content was featured there that cannot be found anywhere else in retail. When we start to see that happen to this generation of games ways down the line, we're going to look back and be like, man, how did we allow this to happen? Is, I think, where we're headed. Though, only time will tell, I suppose, how this will all play out. In the meantime, though, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the latest round of mass layoffs from Microsoft and the fact that departments surrounding bringing Xbox games to physical retail have been shut down, and whether you think that's indicative of an all-digital future, and if so, what are your thoughts about an all-digital future for video games? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.